Welcome to episode 2 of Tell Your Story with President Prodigy. And on this episode, we got Academic Service and Senior Women Administrator, also Assistant Athletic Director, Jenn. So here at Booth Library, we want to know about your past, your present, and your future. We want you to tell your story and what it's going to look like for you in a couple of years from now.
Yeah, so I was a volleyball player as I grew up. I went to college at Siena College in upstate New York on a volleyball scholarship. And after that, got into coaching. And coaching career kind of took me all over the place, East Coast into the Midwest a little bit. And then 2018 ended up not being renewed at my previous school. And I got the assistant volleyball coaching job here at EIU. I knew the previous coach through kind of the coaching channels and things like that. So I came up here. Unfortunately, we didn't have a great season, and my coach was no longer here. And at that point, I decided I was ready to walk away from coaching. I had been coaching for about 17 years at that point, and so I was ready to hang the whistle up. And luckily for me, the Assistant Director of Academic Services position was open in the athletics department. And I went into our athletic director, Tom Michael, and I asked him to give me a chance. I knew that I could help student athletes with their academics and in a mentoring position as well. So was given the opportunity to step into that role and really just fell in love with it. Working in academics speaks to what I loved most about coaching in terms of development and helping student athletes reach their potential. Now I was just doing it in the classroom as opposed to on the court. And so our director, Cindy Allman, she retired last May, and I applied for that position, and I was granted that position in beginning of July. I think I was officially started, so now I'm the Director of Academic Services, and I plan on retiring from EIU. I love it here. I love the town. My family's happy, and I really think it's a great place that does a lot for our students and our student athletes.
So, what's the hardest part about your job here?
The hardest part is trying to get into that student athlete's brain and figure out their why, right? Coming into Division I athletics, the vast majority of the time our athletes have high standards all around. So we want to be great athletes. We want to be great students. All of it goes together. But there are definitely some situations where that's not clicking. And whether that is not picking the right major or not having the motivation or just not having a reason beyond going to practice, that can be really difficult. And there are times where me and my staff, we feel like we want it more than the athlete does. And that's never going to work. They have to want to succeed. They have to want to push themselves. They have to want to risk failure to get to that success. So that's definitely one of the hardest parts of the job, I would say.
So what accomplishments you had on the job and stuff like that?
Obviously getting the promotion was great. That definitely gives you that, knowledge like, okay, I'm doing something right. People believe in me. They see, what my vision is for this area within our department. But honestly, the success comes in the day-to-day of the student who's working really hard and they've been struggling with this class and they finally get an A on the exam. Forget it. We might as well win a national championship. I'm so excited. Or when they'll text us and say, I passed the class or I got an A on this paper. They don't wait to come in. They have to text us right away. That's awesome. And graduation is my favorite day. I'm in tears all day long because I love seeing that ultimate completion of what they're here for. Yes, we love the sport, of course, but we're here to get degrees, and knowing the stories, knowing their struggles, knowing how hard they work to get to that day is just, I couldn't ask for more. And especially the ones who, maybe we started a little rough or we had some problems in the middle, just trying to get to that point and just seeing the pride they have in themselves and how proud their families are. It's just the absolute best day. Graduation day is my absolute favorite day every single year.
It's going to be my favorite day in 2 years, I'll tell you that. So you work with the basketball teams, you work with the football teams and stuff like that. So what groups you tend to lean in towards the most? You know,
oh, jeez, you can't do that. It's like picking my favorite child. So I work with.
Which one give you the most hardest time?
Oh, I can't say that. We're not going to do that. I can't tell you who my least favorite child is either. Everyone is a different animal, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, I had been in athletics for a really long time as a coach, but I worked with a very specific group of athletes, right? I worked with volleyball, and volleyball is female, tends to be white, and upper middle class. So we don't have as many varieties of backgrounds and things like that. It's a very, you know, same type of group that we're working with. I flipped over to academics. Now I was working with soccer, who had a lot of international. I was working with track and field, all races, all genders, all economic classes, like everything. So the amount that I learned kind of in that switch is that like, oh, like not everyone knows what they're doing. First generation college students that have no idea what all of the words we use all the time. Yeah. So I think every team is their own little niche of positives and minuses. But at the end of the day, I mean, I love them all to death, and they all drive me up a wall at the same time in their own special ways. You know, I think obviously, you know, the basketballs and the footballs, because they are the sports that have the most eyes on them, they're going to be the ones that we have to spend a lot of time on as well, because the pressure is elevated, not just for them, but for us. We need to make sure that, you know, the people who are investing in athletics see the payout in those programs, especially. Now, that being said, we put in equal effort to everyone. They just are the ones that maybe it's a little bit more consistent. Maybe it's more on a daily basis. Maybe there's a little bit more need for it. But we absolutely adore all of our athletes. And they all have times where they're having great days and they're not having great days. And, you know, all programs have the same types of problems and issues. It just depends on when they're bringing it to our door.
You mentioned coaching. You used to coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, you offer you a coaching job. You want to do it?
No, I'm good. Now, especially in the current climate where everything is changing so fast. Mm-hmm. The portal was in existence when I was coaching, but it was just getting started. Yeah. So it is nowhere near the level it is right now. People were not transferring close to the rate they're transferring now. And the coaches who I'm still good friends with, obviously over the course of my career, they feel like they're not only recruiting recruits now, they're recruiting our current players, because you're always trying to keep them happy and keep them here. And what happens if you bring in a stud athlete, but they're on the bench, you're going to lose them. And so what happens to the depth on your roster? So now I only have, you know, one strong quarterback instead of four, because nobody wants to wait for a starting spot. Yeah. Things like that. NIL is a completely different monster in terms of where athletes are putting their priority. Are they trying to play and, you know, be on, you know, Dean's List or things like that? But now I'm trying to make money. Am I getting that Instagram deal or things like that? So all of that, it's just too much. It's just too much. When I was coaching, it really was more about coaching. We always had transfers, of course, but nothing at this level. The only coaching I'm doing these days is coaching my 10-year-old in her rec league sports. We'll stick with that. She's starting to dabble in a little bit of like volleyball and basketball and things like that. And that's where I'll kind of put my toe back in the water. But I'm looking forward to handing her off to someone else so I can be the parent. I don't need to worry about wins and losses on my record anymore. Yeah. I'll let somebody else deal with that.
So what's your future looking like? What's your plans?
I wasn't kidding. I'm here. My plan is to be at EIU until it's time to be done. I grew up in Connecticut, grew up in New England. I've lived in Florida. I've lived in Oklahoma. I lived in West Virginia. Coming to the Midwest was definitely the best combination to me of all of the places that I've been. It's small, but it's not tiny. I joke, you know, we're in the middle of nowhere, but we're actually in the middle of everywhere. Yeah. Because it's so easy to get to so many different places. It's a safe community. My kids are happy. It's an affordable area to live. I lived in Fort Lauderdale, so housing prices alone, I will never leave. But I do really believe in what EIU stands for. I do believe that they care about the overall success of students. And the fact that athletics has such a tight-knit group, that all the coaches care about each other, that I can be so involved on campus, that I can get involved with the general student body, that it's not just this segregated little group where I'm only sitting with athletes. Those things I really love. And I think as I've gone through my career, I have gotten a much bigger appreciation for taking the time to just be where my feet are. I think, and the portal is a piece of this too. There's so many times people are looking for what else, right? What do I not have? What does somebody else have? Instead of just taking a moment to look around and go, wow, like, this place is pretty great. Like, I have a lot going for me here. And if I leave, on the off chance I get something else, what am I losing? And I've had enough times where I've made some changes where I know now that in my overall life, being happy is so much more important than climbing any ladder. I have no intentions of being an athletic director. No, thank you. Tom Michael is great at it. You know, when you're the athletic director, you have to deal with a whole different crop. Now we're looking at donors and boosters and just a heightened level. I like working on a level where I get to work with the students every day. That is my main focus, is the student athletes. And that's what I love. So I have no intention of climbing any ladder. I am very happy in my position. And where I see my growth coming in is how we can make growth within the department. How can we increase our programming? How can we provide better resources for our student athletes? How can we connect better to the campus and the community? That's where I feel like the growth for me will come. I don't feel like necessarily growth needs to come with a title.
Oh, I like that. I like that. To leave us off, you motivate a lot of kids on campus, and you get a lot of people right. And you lead them towards their success. So like, leave us with a quote, you know, something for us to live by. Take some time to think, you know, we got time.
Okay. It's funny you say that, because I have a plexiglass wall in my office that was from the COVID era. So in COVID, they gave us all these plexiglass things to hang in front of our desks. And then when we didn't need it anymore, I just moved mine to my wall, and I have it covered in quotes. And there's a ton I can think of, but the only one that like is sticking out in my mind is actually from Yoda. And I'm not even like a huge Star Wars fan, but like enough to know. But it stuck with me for a long time. It's do or do not. There is no try. The reason that I say that, and I use it a lot with athletes, is that, you know, when they say, well, okay, I'll try to get it done, or I'll try to get to class on time. No. Draw a line in the sand. Either you're going to be on time or you're not. Because I can try to be on time for the rest of my life and never be on time, but I tried.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of goes along the lines of like being okay with failure, because failure is space for growth. Failure we can learn from. Failure we can build upon it. So if we're only trying and we're never giving ourselves an opportunity to fail, how far are we going? What are we actually going to push ourselves to accomplish? So that's the one, like, do or do not, there is no try. Like, I'll try to get that paper done. No, you're going to get it done. And then if you don't get it done, what prevented you from doing it? Was it outside things that stopped you? Was it just your own motivation yourself? And that's fine, but it gives you a chance to actually evaluate it. So that's where I, you know, draw the line in the sand. Do or do not. There is no try.
We love that. Appreciate you for coming, sitting down with us and learning more about you. You know, like to end it off with the fake claps. Appreciate y'all for watching episode 2 of Tell Your Story with President Prodigy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.